everybody, welcome to this next session of In Conversation With. I'm Lynn McKenzie and this is Ben Rayot, who brings the riots or something like that.
Yep.
So Ben and I have known each other for years, on and off, and we were trying to figure out there back in King's Hall, Summer Madness, maybe 2005 or something.
Something like that.
We think we've sort of, I don't even really know how we've kept in touch over all these years. We just keep...
Through youth work.
Yeah, well,
probably.
through youth work, yeah. The best work. Over the years.
In the area.
So tell me a little bit, tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing now and how you get into that, because I was surprised when I heard where you're working for now.
Yeah, so well, just to give people a bit of background, you know, I'm French, so I'm French Ben. People know me as French Ben most of the time. So I came over here in 1999 to go and study in Georgetown to do youth and community work. I had met my wife, we were not married at the time, through Youth for Christ in France. She was working for them. I was a bit of a troubled soul at the time, looking for direction, and then for some reason Youth for Christ kind of offered me a bit of support and help. So came over here, studied youth work at Georgetown, and then just got a job straight out of uni, and then just stayed here really. So I've been doing youth work for years, education authorities, tried to go into church youth work a couple of times but got knocked back. Now looking back on it, I'm quite glad I didn't, because I don't think I would have fitted the mould of church youth work. So I've been doing a lot of work within the Carrick area, Belfast, all over Belfast, Green Island, Carrick, Whitehead area. Mainly detached youth work, so working on the streets with young people. Then left after, that part of youth work after 6-7 years, and then went to work for the Youth Justice Agency, so with young offenders for 13 years. And coming to 2 years ago, left the youth work to go into work for the Salvation Army. And I work for a homeless man only hostel in Belfast, in city centre, called Centenary House. So I manage the centre down there, and we have about 100 men or so staying with us. So from all ages, all sorts of issues. How did I get into this, from youth work to homelessness? That's a good question. It's actually an interesting journey. I would say about 6-7 years ago, my faith wasn't probably at where it should have been, or where it's probably the lowest it has ever been, really. And not that I had rejected everything, but just became complacent and was more of a Christian by, I suppose. I don't know. I would call myself a Christian, but maybe my actions and the way I live my life wouldn't have been necessarily reflecting that. And my work moved me to work in Ballymena, the Youth Justice, for a period of time. And when I was there, towards the end of my time in Ballymena, I met a guy that I had when he was 14. I had met him in prison, and Ryan. And Ryan was actually, I was dealing with his brother, and Ryan came on the scene. He remembered me. I remembered him vaguely, but I knew who he was, and he was telling me he was trying to sort his life out and stuff like that. And I thought, well, that's good. I'm pleased for you. And then I left, and then that year, my wife is a teacher and teaches Spanish, and she had invited all the upper 6 guys who were leaving at the house for dinner, and she would do that. And as they were at the house, we were having dinner, and as you do, you know, when you've got guests, you check your mobile phone and to see what the text messages are. Not because you're bored with conversation, but and I remember I had a text message from a girl I worked in Benjiman saying, Ben, you need to go on YouTube and check this video, Ryan's story from Causeway Coast Vineyard.
Oh wow.
And then I thought, oh, it'd be interesting. So, but I didn't know what it was. And I remember watching the video, and at that stage, because I didn't want people to see me watching a video on my phone.
While they're there for dinner.
While they're there for dinner, I went in the other room next door, and it was just brilliant to see the change in Ryan from meeting him when he was 14 in the Juvenile Justice Centre. He went in initially was GBH was intent.
Right.
I mean, Ryan tells his story, so that's not for me to tell. But he, it was just, and the tears were, I don't know, it was just brilliant to see the change, because he was probably the least person I would have thought. And then Ryan I said to Steph, well, next time we're up the North Coast, we need to go to the Causeway, because I want to meet up with Ryan and to see him. And we did, and that started my journey, really, of where I am now. Ryan pushed me to do things which I thought, oh, please don't. But him and I have been going to do the Alpha course in prisons.
Right.
So we were going to McGilligan to run the Alpha course with inmates. We were going, and his idea was to go into the juvenile prison where he once was. To do it with young offenders, but that was my place of work, so that was making things a wee bit more difficult. And conflict of interest. They were trying to hit me with all sorts, but anyway, we managed to do it over so many years, and the staff even over there were crying to see the change in Ryan.
Wow, that's class.
And we had loads of young people actually who did make commitments when we were there. So then I was doing, it doesn't look like it, but I would have been in the gym quite a lot at the time, and so there was a thing called CrossFit.
Oh yeah.
So there's a Christian group of people who do CrossFit, so we were taking CrossFit into the prison to do with the kids. And 5 years ago, one of our pastor in our church came to me and said, Ben, I'm planning a wee trip to France. I need somebody to go with me to translate. And then I said to him, I said, oh yeah, absolutely, I'll go with you, Dave, no worries. And he says, I'm looking at going to the jungle in Calais, in the refugee camp. So I said, Dave, I think, I'll have to check with Steph, first of all, if she's happy enough for me to do this. Plus, work won't give me days off like that, so close to Christmas, there's always a lot of work. But I said, I'll get back to you. And then Steph had heard the conversation, her name being dropped. She said, what is it? So Dave said, she says, okay, yeah, take him away with you, take him away, no problem. And I didn't want to go. I really didn't want to go. Going to a refugee camp was the last thing I wanted to use my holidays for. And that week, there was a few things happening. I have a friend in France who sends me the link of the work for today as a text message every day, but the French one. And then for a lot of time, I would have never ever looked at it. I was just, oh, here we go again. And then for some reason that week I started to look at it. And I have a wee book in the house where I've kept, because there was all those wee verses, and at the start I thought, it's just coincidence. And then it was just keeping on going and on going, to the point where one day I was bringing my wee youngest to school, to primary school in Green Island, and then on my way back I got this and I read it, and I said, and I went, right, what is it you want from me? And then that day there was those pictures all over the news, on the papers, of the wee 8-year-old boy, Syrian boy, washed away on the beach, his body. And then I just said, Dave, when are we going? But the thing was, Dave never went.
Oh really?
Well, it was left on my own to go. So another couple of friends went with me. So there was a friend, Will, and then we needed a van, and we looked around, and then Paul Laverty.
Oh, yeah.
So Paul said, we've got a van, sure, we'll go. And then, so the three of us, we had nothing. And that was probably November time. And we went in early December, mid-December, and I don't know how we managed, but God was good, and obviously He wanted us to go. And Dave had set up like a GoFundMe page type thing, and then with people giving us money, with people giving us sleeping bags, tent. We had sanitary stuff for the ladies. We had what do you call wipes and toothpaste, toothbrushes. And the most incredible thing was we had. I was looking for Bibles in not in French, but we knew that one of the major language would have been Arabic. So we were looking for Bibles, and then at the time there was a girl I knew. Her husband works for Biblica. So I had texted her, I said, do you know if he knows where I could buy some of those Bibles or what languages? And then I remember, she says, Ben, I can't remember, he was away to some country for work, and somebody gave him a donation and said to him, this is for, and you will know, but this is for Bibles in that language and that language and that language. And she says, could you use them? And those were the languages that we were actually looking for, because we knew we had people, so we had all these Bibles ready, and then we took them all with us. And we drove and drove and drove this van from here to Dublin, and Dublin across Wales, and Wales across England, arrived in Dover and Cali. And we spent a few days over there and in the jungle, and it was the hardest thing ever. But the people were the first people I have ever met. No matter what, they knew we had stuff to give.
Yeah.
But they never asked for it. They never tried to take it off us or stealing from us or anything. A lot of people were going, oh, you see, this is mad, you're not going over there. It wasn't. We always felt very safe. And the people were making us our lunches, our dinners, and we were like, no, it's yours. Don't worry about us. We'll get something later on or whatever. But they insisted, so we had these two guys who took us under their wing for the time we were there. And they were brilliant, and they took us one day to show us their wee makeshift tent, where there was 3-4 of them living in, and they had a pineapple, and they cut this pineapple on the sand, and then they shared the pineapple with us, so that was their dinner for the day, and they wanted absolutely for the 3 of us, so between 6 people eating a pineapple, sandy pineapple, but. Okay, and it was really, really good. But we saw things happening over there, like just heartbreaking, but also really seeing God moving in the place was unbelievable. We were there, and one day there's a group of people who came from Convoy of Hope, which is another organization, Christian organization, where we knew there was a pastor from an Ethiopian church in London who had moved over, and he had made up a makeshift church.
All right.
So we had linked up. We were linking up with him. We were linking up with a French church around there who was working in the Cali camp, and they were doing a lot of cleaning clothes for people and just things that we take for granted. So we were linking up with them all. But the Convoy of Hope came, and we had in that wee church. They were doing like a sing-along thing, songs and music and so on. And it was brilliant to see everybody coming, and all the guys coming and dancing away and listening. And then after, we were able to give the Bible that we had brought in all those languages. And we thought, we'll never know who to give them to. And they were, and I still have photos. We were making a video actually for the people who had given us all the stuff, money and the goods to take, and for our church, obviously. And we had guys who couldn't read the Bible, so they were finding one of the guys who were able to read, and I have the photos and the videos. And one would have been with the Bible, reading it, and they all around him to listen to what they had that he was reading. And then there was a guy, there was a group of guys from the Balkans, and one of the Convoy of Hope people was from the same country, was able to speak to them. And I remember they were all in circle, and there would have been 15 of them about, with their arms around each other, and this guy was talking in his language, and then there was and everybody going and it was going on for a while. And then after, there's a girl who came, and then we said, what is he doing? She said he just told them his story, and now he's asked them. He said to them that he was going to pray a prayer, and if they wanted to have that hope, just to repeat. And I would say there was 15 of the men there. All the guys who were there were all doing it, and it was that amen at the end was just grand. So that kind of then brought me into this whole realm of working with people who are vulnerable, who are who find themselves in situations in life where we are very quick to label as people who are homeless, or the way we look at it in work, it's people who they find themselves homeless.
Okay.
So you are not homeless. It doesn't define you as a person.
Yep.
And it's not going to be sticking to you for the rest of your life. It's a situation you find yourself into for different reasons. Some could be relationship breakdowns, some could be job, loss of a job, or your financial situation. For some other people, a lot of people see drugs and alcohol but drugs and alcohol are a byproduct of something else.
Yeah.
And it's people trying to medicate, I suppose, and self-medicate.
Yeah, just to block the pain of the original, many original things usually for people.
So that was the start of my journey, and then I could go on. We went in France and helped one Christmas with my wife. There was a church doing a Christmas dinner for 2,500 people on Christmas night.
Wow.
We had a party, there was a band playing, there was all sorts, and they did it the year again after, and then it just kept growing. And so that gave us the idea to, for a few years in Green Island, we were doing it.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Doing our Christmas dinners on Christmas Day, which has always been brilliant to do. So, so my heart for people, I still love young people, doing stuff with young people. I can still do it within the church in my own time, but that's how I moved from youth work to working with the people who find themselves homeless. Yeah. So.
Goodness, that's quite a story.
So there you go.
Yeah. And so, like you mentioned your faith sort of on and off throughout, that experience, how would you say your faith has impacted the choices you've made for your career or your work?
For my career in youth work, I wouldn't say my faith was what guided me through youth work. Maybe through youth work would have been more the fact that I had been the recipient of people who were doing it.
Yep.
And then I wouldn't have been probably the most compliant young person you would have ever had as a young person. I had my own demons that I was dealing with. The fact that I had people who were able to stick with it, I suppose, as opposed to just go and say, you know what, that's it.
Yeah, you could have been written off.
Give up, and then they didn't. They kept at it. So that was always something that I always felt, you know what, people need people like that. I had the choice between the youth work or going to study to be an IT engineer, and then I just went for the youth work. So, which sometimes in the house I'm being reminded of that the wages are not the same all the time.
No, the wages wouldn't be the same.
So it was more for others, I suppose, than for myself.
Yeah, yeah. But I suppose in some ways that is your faith. You know, that's what Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, that's the demonstration of Jesus in people's lives. Maybe not so much praying and hearing a call, but you maybe couldn't have done anything else by the sounds of it. You know.
Absolutely. Now the work in the Salvation Army, although it is a Christian organisation, people aren't necessarily Christians.
Yeah.
Working in it, but certainly my faith was a big driver then when I went for the job and I applied for it, definitely, because I mean I can take the service in there, like on the Tuesday morning and Thursday morning we've got a chaplain doing a service and stuff like that. Now when the chaplain's off, she's asking me, can you go and cover? So they're like, tomorrow morning I'm going to be taking the wee service we have in the morning. So I don't have to worry about what my employer is going to say about it.
Yes.
Is it conflict of interest or not, and those things. So I can do alpha courses if I want in it, and there's nobody who's going to be...
nobody looking over your shoulder.
Yeah. So I suppose my faith there for the move with the Salvation Army definitely was, and then feeling a burden for the oppressed and the vulnerable. Absolutely, because you couldn't do it otherwise. Yeah.
It sounds really challenging.
It is definitely a calling, because in almost 2 years I've been there, we have seen a lot of death. We have lost a lot of service users through overdoses. And that has a real impact on the rest of the service users and the staff.
Yeah.
You know, walking into a room and finding somebody just lifeless. So we have had quite a few of those. We have had a lot of near death. We have had a lot of overdoses where staff manage to deal with the guys and bring them back and preserving life. Mental health issues and people trying to take their own life. And you're working away with them, and you have to, and show them that you know what, you're cared for, you're being loved, and it's not just us. There's other people, and then for the people who are Christians in the organisation, we know that there's a Father there in heaven who loves them too. But you couldn't go through all this if you didn't have faith.
Yeah, that's something that's really carrying you, like your foundation and your safety now.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Imagine. And for us in church at the minute, we're going through a bit of a time. We have a theme every year in church, and so this year it's about a season of patience that will lead to a season of strength. Those are the things we're thinking about. Like, can you see any times in your life where you know you've went through a season of patience? You know, that waiting and.
Yeah. When I was looking for jobs, I think I came to a point when I loved my job with Youth Justice. I absolutely loved it. It was great. But I think I came to a point where I felt it was time for me to move on, and I kept applying for a job here, a job there, and a job there, and this. There were jobs where I had applied for. There was particularly one which I was really gutted. It was a Christian organisation, because I thought, and everything was looking well, and I had to take a flight to go to London for an interview and all this. Went, and right away went for it, and then arrived in London, and the organisation said, well, actually the job you applied for has been given to such and such. You're here for his job. And I was like, no, I applied for that job you give him. But so that was but anyway, so that didn't work out. But it almost looked like doors were opening, and then next thing, bam, slam at your face, and I'm back to square one again. And then it went on for a while.
Yeah.
And it was getting frustrating. I'm thinking, come on, Lord, here.
Yeah.
But obviously there were lessons that he wanted me to learn, and if you ask my wife and my kids, I'm not probably the most patient person that
Okay.
day either. So definitely that was a lesson.
Yeah.
And I suppose the biggest lesson for me was going back to Psalm 46 verse 10, to be still and know that I am. And thinking, yeah, it's easy to say here,
Yep.
but when everything is crumbling around you or you don't see any way out,
Yeah.
being still, well,
It doesn't come
it's hard.
naturally. Yeah, it doesn't. And when you're trying to make something work because you think you're being diligent and doing the right thing, and
then I like to try to, right, if it doesn't work, there's plan B, there's plan C, and maybe a plan D. And I mean, it couldn't go any further than that. And then you're going, we're wondering plan D already. And then, so I suppose the lessons for me was from the start. I was supposed to go through plan A, B, C, and D, and to go and say, you know what, God, this is yours.
Yep.
I'll sit, I'll wait, but come on, hurry up. Don't be too long.
Yeah, you only sit still for so long.
But no, absolutely, and that would have been my lesson, would be to sit still,
Yeah.
be still and know that I am. So that would have been the biggest lesson.
Yeah. That's very timely, I suppose, for what we're experiencing as a church, and even some of us, you know, in the church, you know, just that, like, just sit still and wait, because it's not just about, because you can wait impatiently, you know,
Yep.
but that stillness, that's where the patience is. That's the verb, isn't it? The stillness is in sitting and just waiting and not trying to
And you don't do
overthink and
deals.
calculate it, and
And you don't really do deals with God either. Because I see people, and, you know, well, God, it's either that or that.
yeah.
You decide, and it's not. And if you do that, God will go and say, well, actually, it's that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
don't do deals with God, that doesn't.
But no, it is for, I mean, our church at the minute, our pastor is gone. He left to go to, was called in another church, so we're with nobody as well. So, who are we going to get? How long is it going to take before we get somebody, you know, things. But you know what, you just have to learn
Yeah.
to sit still and wait and trust that God will bring the person that we need
Yeah.
in our church, and He's got His reasons
Yeah.
why there's nobody coming right away, or things maybe He wants us to find out for ourselves or work out for ourselves. I don't know, maybe is it trying to bring unity and getting
Yeah.
everybody back working together, especially after COVID.
Yeah.
So He's got His reasons, and it's just to wait and see.
Yeah.
But hey,
It's a good life lesson.
He's there. He knows
Well,
what He's
it.
doing.
Well, that's
so.
it. That's it. Well, look, thank you so much for sharing so much of your story today. Most of those things I didn't know about you, so that's been really interesting. I always find it a privilege that people will give me all that stuff and share it with anybody who's listening. So, and if anybody wants to get involved in Salvation Army or hear more about it, what would we
They
advise them to
can
do?
always go. Now, we don't advise people to go on the website purely because the website is Salvation Army UK.
Okay.
So if they want to find out about Belfast, they are not necessarily going to find out about Belfast on the Salvation Army UK. Also, we have people who sometimes through the years they'll want to make donations and stuff like that, and we tell them not to go through Salvation Army UK because it goes in the UK pot, and we never see it in Belfast. But if people want to come, feel drawn and called to work with the homeless, we are quite often looking for relief work. So
Okay.
as it's not, we're not giving anybody a 20 hours contract or so on. It's just whenever we've got somebody ringing off sick or whatever, and we've or holidays or so on, we can offer some of those shifts to
Right,
people.
okay.
So if people are interested in that, they can always ring the centre
Okay.
on 02890 320 320.
Okay. And we'll
And
put that
that's
in the
for-
post.
Centenary House,
Centenary
Belfast.
House in Belfast.
And then they can ask to speak to one of the managers, and then we'll let them know if we are recruiting for
Yeah.
relief and how to go about it
Okay.
at the time. But that's the way if they
Yeah.
want to
Okay.
to look into it. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Okay. Thanks very much.
Well, there you go.
Well, everybody, thank you for listening, and I'm sure you've been as touched and intrigued by Ben's story as I've been. And if you do want to get involved, we'll put the information in the post and the underneath, so you can get involved and have a nosy around and see what they're doing. Okay. Thank you, and I don't know who I'm going to have with me next month, so you'll have to come back next month and find out. Thank you.
Thank you.